I recommend very long, completely nonsensical passwords for this. Now, I run my own email server out of my apartment, so I don't make a huge use of this service. But I know most people don't do that, and most people don't want to run an email server. Trust me, it's a huge pain in the ass. So this is probably your best option. For free, you get 500 megabytes of storage. That's a pretty good option. But the nice part is they blatantly just want you to pay them money. This takes you out of the realm of being the product and puts you in the realm of being the customer. Always look for this in an online service. There's no such thing as a free service. I shouldn't have to explain that to libertarians, so. The other nice thing is I want to send a message to, we'll send it to myself. And we'll just, say greetings. There's actually an encryption option down here. And you can set a password on the email, which in case anybody's wondering, I did set it to password. This is very secure. And away it goes. Oh. No, cancel. That was my spam filter. Will freak out.
So you can get past your spam filter with hello?
That alone will not do it, but if you don't have a subject, that'll just boot it right in, because my spam filter is very, very, very angry most of the time.
Noticed a lot of the spam has been using special characters lately.
Yeah, special characters aren't automatic. So, hello. Now here's the nice part, because I set a password on it, it did not send the email to me. It sent a link where I can view it. So I go to view it and requires me to enter in the password. And now I can actually read it. The advantage here is email is good. As far as like all my stuff is sitting in Switzerland at the moment on the server. But if I email like you and you're using Gmail, suddenly that message is sitting on Gmail servers. This way, it never gets onto Gmail servers. It stays on their server. I have to log in via their website, so Google still doesn't have that information. Mm-hmm. It's not a perfect setup. Obviously, there's a lot of weaknesses involved here, but it's far better than Gmail, Yahoo, or any of those services. And unfortunately, as you guys already indicated, most people don't want to work too hard at securing their information, so PGP is usually not something that people are willing to use. My recommendation, if you're going to use email, use Proton Mail. And it's free, although I would urge you guys to pay them because I want to see them stick around for a while. And those are that's the simplified version. I'm not going to go into too much detail. You guys can go sign up, you can play with it yourself, but I think that's a good understanding of why this is a better service to use in Gmail if you want more secure communications. Do you have a question?
How do you make that random, really long password and still remember it?
That's interesting. You're not even a plant in this audience, because the next thing I was going to talk about were password managers. So how many people here recycle passwords or recycle variations of similar passwords? Exactly. Don't feel bad, everybody does it. So fortunately, for those of you who want to be more secure, there are options called password managers. And password managers, there's several good ones. The two that I recommend are LastPass and 1Password. I prefer 1Password only because the company that recently bought LastPass has a history of buying up companies and then turning the services into crap. But so far they haven't done that. And LastPass remains a good, viable option, and it's free. There's a free tier, I should say. There's also a paid tier. 1Password is, you give me your fucking money right now, and I'll give you the password. I hope it's okay I'm swearing on camera. So what a password manager does is both store your passwords and will often auto-fill them if you have it set to do so. I'm trying to think of we'll go to what I just told you never to use. Unless Google's Oh, there we go. So I want to sign in. And it says, okay, enter your email. And I don't care if you guys see this.
So that's who you were.
So I click up here, and you'll notice it has my accounts listed. And this one's Comrade Berg. So I just click on it. It automatically fills in the password. Click sign in. And this is where I will run into my two-factor authentication, which is something we'll talk about in a bit. The other nice thing is I don't have a Yahoo account, but if I want to create one, boy, I don't even know where you go to create an account. This is a dreadful interface. Okay, sign up. So I go to sign up. Slowly. So I'll go up here and there's an option called password generator. And if you look at this mess, we'll paste it up here so you can kind of see the whole thing. But who here could remember that? That's what makes it a good password. You can't predict it as random garbage. And it already saved it for me. But if I click fill, it'll actually automatically load it in there. So let me explain to you a fun error message. You run into this a lot on websites, is they'll say that your password isn't strong enough, try making it longer. And it's actually an error message that you can run into when your password is too long. They don't actually have an error message a lot of times for having too long passwords. So it's like, this isn't long enough. You need to make a longer password. When in fact, if you do, it'll reject it. My bank does this. I hate it.
It's called laziness.
It's called incompetent database administrator setting the field too short.
Yeah.
Yes, I am harsh. The nice thing though is, let's say I'm on my bank's website. My bank is like, no, you can't have a 50-character password. We're a secure banking facility. You can only have 20. You can actually turn this down to 20. And then they'll be like, well, you can't have special symbols. Okay, well, I'll turn off all the special symbols. And then they'll say you can't have digits, you can have letters. Okay, fine, I'll turn it down. So password manager, you can actually customize your passwords to be weak enough for crappy sites to accept. Or you can, crank it up for what a real website would give you. And you click accept, it's automatically in here. If I go to log into Yahoo, I just click on the login thing. LastPass, which I don't have installed anymore, unfortunately, to show it. Actually, I might have. Oh, I still got the. Okay, so. Sorry, I haven't logged into this in a long time and I wasn't actually going to use it, but I just want to show you guys what LastPass is since I recommended it. Okay, so. So LastPass, you can see, is basically the exact same service. I can actually generate passwords, create new passwords, it stores all my passwords. As you can see, I've got a lot of things in here. Actually, I've got other people's passwords in here. So if you actually log into my computer with your account, by default, it'll actually save the password on here. So don't tell one of my friends, but I've got a couple of their online dating profile logins. Of course, I've never used it. So the other nice thing is, on LastPass, they'll give you an idea of what is called a security challenge. And what it really is telling you if you have passwords that are weak, or if you have passwords that are repeating themselves. Like here you can see I have 4 duplicate passwords, because certain websites are like, no. And 7, this one's the one I really like. These are all websites that have been hacked, and the credentials have actually been compromised, and you might want to generate new ones. As you can see, these happened like years ago, so I've already changed them, but it's something that helps you maintain more security. Both these apps also have applications for iOS and Android. So you can actually log into your accounts by just going into the app, copy the password, paste it into the field. You don't have to, you know, tap in this long garbage to get into your accounts. And that's really important now that everything's going on mobile devices. The other nice thing is both LastPass and 1Password actually sync things up online in an encrypted format. So they take your database, they encrypt it with that long password you saw me type in at the beginning, and then they'll upload it to the server so I can sync to all my different devices. You can turn that off if you want, but honestly, turning it off I feel is actually less secure, because then you'll be more encouraged to use weak passwords on your phones and stuff like that. Whereas the data is encrypted using strong cryptographic algorithms on the server, so it's not like the FBI is going to be able to grab it and just crack it. So the other thing I was going to talk about is there any questions on password managers? Yes?
I use KeyPass, and then I actually have the encrypted files actually on Dropbox.
Yep. Hey.
I have it synced on everything.
Yep, KeyPass is good. The only reason I don't generally recommend it is, as this audience and most audiences originally admitted, they don't want to work too hard. And KeyPass, especially like iOS devices, I found can be, the iOS apps I found for doing KeyPass are terrible. They don't integrate into anything like the browser or stuff like that. So I generally don't recommend it to people in a general audience, but if you're technically savvy and you really are willing to use it, I like the fact it's open source. So you can verify the source code if you're into that kind of thing. And actually build it yourself to generally ensure that there's no backdoors or anything inserted into it. So yeah, KeyPass is definitely a good one to look into. Anything? Yes?
1Password, is it a free service as well as paid?
Nope, it's just paid.
It's just paid.
Yep.
How much it is?
Last I checked, it was like 70 or 80 bucks.
Okay, just as a comment, LastPass is mobile.
Yep.
But the mobile requires a paid subscription.
Yeah, and I think it was like 36 a year, wasn't it?
$12 a year.
Oh, is it 12?
Yep.
Okay, so $1 a month for syncing your password securely. Money well spent.
Very good.
But thank you for pointing that out.
And as a database guy, I won't show that.
Yeah, and I was making fun. I'm sure you're a competent database guy, not an incompetent database guy.
Touche.
Any other questions? Yes.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around this. You have these enormously long passwords, which is great. But the original password manager, to get on your computer or whatever, just to fire it up, you're
Yep.
not going to type in a super long password.
Well,
You start that program, are you?
you saw my super long, or my password I typed in.
So you do have to have one in your head.
Yeah,
I
that's
use a
so long.
sentence
Yeah.
structure
Yep.
where it's like the dog ran fast, and then I change digits throughout that'll correlate to numbers, or but not like an S is 5, like an S is 7. Not because an S is actually 7, but because computers don't think like that. We do.
And yeah, actually, my pre-shared key on one of my Wi-Fi's is my guest Wi-Fi is actually lyrics from a song. Another thing, if like the password manager, you can actually set it to generate words. So you'll have, let's say 6 separate words. You just have to remember slither hyphen transfix hyphen bound blah blah blah. And that's a strong cryptographic password, but it's something that's still memorizable to a human being. So you can keep it in your head when you're logging in for your password manager account. So yeah, that's going to be the one password that you're going to have to remember. The nice thing though is if you only have to remember one very strong password, it's much easier to remember that one than try and remember unique passwords for every site.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But still, every time you fire up your computer, I mean, how often do you have to
Well, it's
log that?
It's just like when you log in, every time you turn on your computer, you gotta type in your hopefully very extensive login password in order to get into the system. And yeah, it's the same thing with your password manager. You can set them. I know like LastPass, you can log in, it doesn't necessarily require the login every time. I think you can set it, right?
So it depends on the mobile device. If you have biometrics, it'll take your fingerprint. You can save it on the website, but that will usually only stick around until you close out the tab or the window that you're working with. Even if you click "Keep me logged in," it'll do that. So it's very limited session
Okay.
on that. But
Yeah. And things you probably don't, I would recommend against having it logged in automatically when you log into your computer anyways, just because then that database is available, anybody can get into your computer.
Yeah.
And most people don't turn on for
Yes, and most people, like, block out my screen. Most people would just have their computer set up where you type in your password and it just logs you in. Some of us are incredibly paranoid, and we actually require the insertion of a hardware token as well. And type in the password correctly might help if I'm going to do this. So yeah, it's all about...
Where do you get the hardware tokens from?
Well, the funny thing is, next thing I'm going to talk about is two-factor authentication.
Funny.
He is totally a plant. So, I don't know if I've answered your
Yeah,
question.
so that is the one challenge that we can't evade.
Yeah, eventually you have to have
That
something
hardware
when you
token
know
will eventually be upgraded, so you won't. It'll be like a key, so you won't have to worry about it.
Yep, and so for two-factor, this is very useful. So two-factor authentication's become kind of a buzzword now, as it should be. Everybody should know about it. And how two-factor works is everybody's familiar with the website where you log in your username, your password, you get logged in, right? Two-factor authentication adds a second step that ideally requires some kind of separate piece of hardware that has some kind of unique information that you have to type in order to log into the website. So for Google, I have two options. The first is what's called a one-time password. And I guess we'll grab this one. Now I have no problem showing you this because it's only useful for 30 seconds. I have to actually be able to type in my password and then type in this number. And as you'll see the little countdown timer here, when that expires, it will actually generate a new number. So I actually have to have my phone in my possession in order to log into my account here. I'm really kind of frightened of logging into this in a live demo because I haven't accessed this account, so God knows what the hell's in it. Your libertarians don't judge me too harshly. So, make sure your settings are up to date because Google wants to know everything
So,
about me.
Google also has an option down at the bottom right there. It says backup codes,
Yep.
where you can download pre-printed backup codes for that authenticator in case you don't have internet access. You can write them down, whatever. You can keep them in a text document on your computer. So if you cannot get access to your computer because of that two-step, you have a backup password to
Yep.
use.
Which-
really nice. It's newer within the last year.
And you notice I didn't print or download one.
No,
If I don't have that set up.
I use
Oh, but-
7 different.
No, but you could just copy and paste it in the LastPass notes.
Yeah, I could. But I would prefer that didn't exist at all at the moment. Because I've got two factors to get into my account. And Gmail offers this, Facebook offers two-factor, GitHub, Dropbox. Highly recommend enabling it. On iOS, for my two-factor application, I use an application that's called Authy. 1Password can do it as well. And 1Password will note this, that I think it's dangerous having your password manager also contain your two-factor tokens. Because the idea of two-factor is you should have to have a separate device entirely. And as soon as you have one app that has everything stored in it, suddenly you have more like 1.5 factor. The idea behind two-factor is in order to get into my account, somebody would have to steal my password and also steal my two-factor tokens. So if you wanted to get into my laptop, and let's say you have my password, you'd still have to win the duel of the death to get this thing from me. Now I need to open Chrome in order to show the other message of doing this. Okay, so once again, we just use my Jeez, I must have saved it last time I did it. Most two-factor sites have it set up where you can save it for 30 days, so you don't need the second factor on the same machine within 30 days. And apparently this is what this did. So we're gonna try Dropbox. Hopefully this, I don't ever go into Dropbox, so.
Obviously, your browser doesn't know that.
Worst demo ever. Okay, private mode.
Yeah. That's right.
Can't be logged in at all.
Okay.
No.
Okay, we'll just bring that up, copy the password.
I like that copy.
Copy's nice. Okay, so it says insert your token. You saw earlier I had to type in 6 numbers and have my phone. This is much easier. I can just jam it in my USB slot, touch the capacitive button. Touch the capacitive button. Well, there we go. This is called U2F, and it's still fairly new, and it's only supported on Chrome at the moment, and it's only supported somewhat, as you can see.
It's nice though. It's
Yeah,
really
but-
nice.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to show you this is because this is probably going to become the future of two-factor. And it's nice because you can, you know, wear it around your neck. I have a spare one sitting on my keychain. And you can actually use it for logging into computers, logging into accounts. You can put cryptographic keys on here so you can sign emails and encrypt emails with the push of a button. Does anybody here use PGP for email? Okay, one person has. How's the user experience of PGP?
It's a pain in the ass, so you only use it when you have to.
Exactly. This makes it easier because this is what's called a write-only device. You can't read information off of it, you can only write information to it. And you can put your PGP key on here. So I'll send an email, I just have to tap this button, it'll encrypt and sign it for me. And I don't have to do any of the fucking around with typing in a password, clicking OK, and all that other nonsense. So the big thing behind this is set up two-factor authentication. Like I said, I use Authy. LastPass actually has a really cool new two-factor thing where you actually say, yeah, fill in my two-factor authentication, then it sends a notification to your device to approve it or deny it, and then it'll fill it in for you. So it streamlines it a bit. I still don't like the idea of keeping the password and the two-factor token in the same application, but if that's the only thing keeping you from enabling it, just do it. The hard part about security is security and convenience are always separate. They're mutually exclusive. So if you can be slightly more secure but not as secure as possible, just do that. I'm not encouraging laziness here, I just accept the fact that most people are like me and they're lazy. So who here has a mobile phone, a smartphone? Everybody.
Are you kidding? Yes.
That's interesting. Who here has iOS and who?
Andrew.
Okay.
Android.
Who has Android? Okay. Who on the Android users has a Google Nexus device? I am so sorry, guys.
What's that?
That is Google's official smartphone, and we're going to talk a little bit about mobile device security since that's pretty much becoming more important now than computer security. One of the difficult parts about Android, and I have to say this to caveat everything I'm saying, is that it's up to your manufacturer of when you get the latest software updates. So if you have a Nexus device, Google pushes out the updates as soon as they release them. If you have HTC, you have to wait for HTC to release them, and sometimes the carriers themselves will delay or not push updates. This is important because you want to always install the latest updates for your operating system because there's always lots of security vulnerabilities. iOS users have it easier because Apple basically told all the carriers they can just shove it up their ass, we're going to control everything. So you always get your updates as long as your device is supported, which is usually about 3 or 4 hardware revisions.